Hey, so many of you have let me know that you're enjoying the lessons on phrasal verbs and you have requested some more of them. So today we are looking at 10 phrasal verbs that you can use in business meetings and professional situations. So let's get started. Before we jump into today's lesson, I want to remind you about my Essential English for Business course. This is an amazing self-study course that I've created to help you take your business English to the next level so you can communicate confidently, clearly, and professionally at work. I will link the course just below this lesson so you can check it out. So our first phrasal verb is come up with something. Come up with something. Now, come up with something just means to think of a new idea or a new concept. So, for example, our objective today is to come up with a new design concept. Our objective today is to come up with a new design concept. Or the marketing team has come up with some great ideas for the next launch. The marketing team has come up with some great ideas for the next launch, okay? Now, my question for you is, what was the last thing that you came up with at work? What was the last idea that you came up with at work? You can leave your answer down below in the comments. Next, we have look into. Look into something. Now, if you look into something, it means that you research it or you explore it in more detail. So for example, that's a great idea. Let's have Jessica look into it and we can chat more about it in Friday's meeting. Or I've looked into it and we will be able to meet our clients' requests. I've looked into it and we will be able to meet our clients' requests. This is a really good one to use when you're in a meeting and a colleague comes up with a new idea, but you need to check on a few details first before you can approve the idea. You can say, I will look into it, or we will look into it, or we're still looking into it. Phrasal verb number 3 is take on. Now, take on is used when we accept additional work or additional responsibilities. So for example, I don't think we have the resources to take on this project right now. I don't think we have the resources to take on this project. Or we're looking to take on a few new clients this month. We are looking to take on a few new clients this month, all right? So if you take something on, it just means that you are accepting extra work or extra responsibilities. So maybe if a colleague of yours is on leave or on holiday, you might have to take on a few extra tasks, all right? Or maybe you're super busy and you can't take on extra tasks right now. Next, we have deal with. Deal with. Now, if you deal with something, it just means that you manage or handle or take care of something. So for example, you've done a great job dealing with customer complaints. You've done a great job dealing with customer complaints. Or let's put our heads together and come up with the best way to deal with this situation. Let's put our heads together, let's work together and come up with, think of the best way to deal with or handle this situation. So in this example, we have used a few different phrasal verbs, all right? So my question for you is, how do you deal with conflicts at work? When you face challenges or conflicts with your colleagues, with your boss, how do you deal with those challenges? Let me know down below in the comments. Next, we have 2 phrasal verbs with pretty much the same meaning. Jot down or note down. Jot down or note down. And this just means to literally write something down, to make a note of something on a piece of paper or in a notebook so you don't forget it. This one is super easy to use and very useful, especially during meetings, because you often have to write things down so you don't forget them. So for example, you could say, if you have any questions, just jot them down and we'll address them at the end of the meeting. If you have any questions, just jot them down or note them down and we'll answer them later on, okay? If you want to ask someone to write something down, you could say, James, could you just jot that down for me? Could you jot that down for me? All right, so jot down or note down is another way of saying make a note of something or write something down. So super useful for meetings when you don't want to forget questions or important points. Number 6 is set up. Now, set up means to organize or arrange something. So you could literally set up for a meeting. For example, you could ask your assistant to please set up the meeting room, all right? Or you can set up a meeting with a client. For example, let's set up a meeting with the new client as soon as possible. Let's set up a meeting with the new client as soon as possible. Or let's say that you're implementing a new process at work and you have a meeting to discuss it with your team. You could say, the new system we're setting up should make this process much easier. The new system we're setting up should make this process much easier. So set up, again, means to arrange or organize something. Number 7 is to push back. To push something back means to delay it a little bit or move it to a later date. So for example, I know the team has a lot on their plate right now, so let's push back today's meeting to Friday. So I know everyone's busy, let's delay this meeting until Friday. Or another example, if you're working on a project and you fall a little bit behind, you can say, it looks like we'll have to push back the timeline a little bit. It looks like we'll have to push back the timeline a little bit. So again, push back just means to delay. Next, we have bring up. Bring up. This is a great one. It's very common. I use it all the time. If you bring something up, it just means that you mention or introduce an idea. You mention something or you say something. So for example, Melissa brought up a really great point earlier. Melissa brought up a really good point earlier. So it doesn't matter what Melissa was talking about. Whatever idea she had, whatever point she made was good. Another example, you could say this to a colleague. You have a really good point. You should bring it up in the meeting, or you should bring it up with management. You should mention it or bring it to their attention. And one more example, the client brought up a few concerns this morning. The client brought up a few concerns this morning, all right? So again, to bring something up just means to mention something. For number 9, we have 2 phrasal verbs with the same meaning. Run something by someone or run something past someone. So run by and run past have the same meaning. It's just an alternative, all right? Now, if you run something by someone, it means you tell someone something because you need their opinion or their approval. So you tell someone about something for their opinion or their approval. For example, I have a few ideas to run by you when you have a minute. I have a few ideas to run by you when you have a minute. Okay, so in this case, I have some ideas and I want to talk to you, maybe my colleague or my boss, about them because I would like your opinion or your input. Another example, I think we'll have to run this by Tina before we can move forward. I think we'll have to run this by Tina or run this past Tina before we can move forward. So in this case, maybe we need Tina's approval before we move forward with this idea or with this project. So we'll have to run it by her or run it past her. Remember, there's no difference in meaning here. Whichever one is easier for you to remember, you can use that one. Run by or run past. Just before our last phrasal verb, in addition to my Essential English for Business course, I've created some free business English classes for you. So myself and teacher Tiffany from Speak English with Tiffany have teamed up to bring you Business English Week. So these are 4 free classes. All you have to do is click the link below the lesson for Business English Week. Enter your best email address and you will have access to these 4 free classes, all right? So make sure you check that out. phrasal verb number 10 for today is wrap up. Now, to wrap something up just means to bring something to an end or to finish something. So a really common way to use this is at the end of a meeting, you could say, do you have any questions before we wrap up? Do you have any questions before we wrap up? Or we'll be wrapping up in about 5 minutes. We'll be wrapping up in about 5 minutes, all right? One more example. We will be wrapping up negotiations next week. We'll be wrapping up negotiations next week, all right? So wrap up just means to conclude, to finish, to bring something to an end. So we are just about wrapping up today's lesson. But if you do have any questions, of course, please leave them down below in the comment section for me. As well, I encourage you to come up with common examples that you can actually use at work and in your meetings using the phrasal verbs from today. Leave those down below for me as well. Make sure you check out Business English Week and my Essential English for Business course. And I do have one more gift for you today. It is my free ebook, English Conversations Made Simple. You can also click the link below this lesson and I will send you your copy. So thank you so much for watching, for learning, and for spending time with me today. And I'll see you very soon in the next lesson.